What's going on, everybody? David Gokhshtein back at it again, Gokhshtein Unfiltered. And I have a really special guest today, Patrick Bet David. What's going on, Patrick?
David, how you doing?
Good. I'm excited to have you here. I was going to start off with this question, but then I was like thinking as I'm waiting here, I'm like, bro, like you're all over my TikTok feed, YouTube feeds. Every single feed that I go on to watch shorts or reels, you're there. And I remember like the first one, it was with Kobe. And that has to be still my favorite, one of the most favorite feeds that I've or reels or shorts that I've seen of you sitting down with that legend.
Yeah, that was a fun one. But listen, you know, we have cameras on you. We are intentionally paying Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to monitor you closely because rumor has it you're in love with this guy named Andrew Tate. And
I'm in love with him.
You're infatuated with him and you have some questions. So I've been looking forward to this therapy session for a minute here.
Listen, maybe you'll help me with this. Maybe you'll allow me to see something that I'm currently not seeing with Andrew Tate. And I'm not shitting on the guy. I have no beef with him. I don't know him. I can't have beef with him if I don't know him. The message is off. And that's how we kind of like started talking on Twitter, because I just didn't like, I don't agree with some of his opinions, but we'll get into that real quickly. Just for some of the people, I don't know how people don't know you, but for some, or for those that don't know you, Pat, can you just break down, everything that you've built?
Yeah. Born and raised in Iran, lived there 10 years. We escaped, went to Germany, lived there for a couple years at a refugee camp, came to the States, joined the Army, went to the 101st Airborne, got out, started working at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter a day before 9/11, got my Series 7, 66, all the securities license, did that for a minute. Then I went to Transamerica, was there for 7.5 years, became one of their top executives, and then started my own insurance company in October of 2009. Grew it from 66 agents to 35,000 agents, of which 20,000 roughly were active. Exited out of that with a partner, 100% exit out of that 12 weeks ago. Great experience. I'm still with a new partner that came in. It was a multi 9-figure exit. And then I accidentally started a YouTube channel called Valuetainment that turned into a media company, and now we've created content on entrepreneurship, business, and I've done a bunch of strange interviews over the years.
I've looked at your YouTube channel. You've sat down with a hell of a list of people that, for me personally, I've read into them or I've admired them from the side, especially Kobe. Like, I always got to bring up Kobe because his mindset, his work ethic was ridiculous, and I'm going to ask you about that during this conversation, but let's go right into Andrew Tate, right? That's what we kind of like battled over. I want to say it wasn't like, I wasn't like ripping you apart on Twitter. I was just like, yo, I just don't agree with it. And then I got like completely destroyed by your army, but that's fine. I'm used to it. I got Teflon skin. All right. So Andrew Tate, one thing I don't agree with is having somebody have their platform taken away. I'm not with that. I'm not with not allowing me to have a conversation with the other side. But I only agree with maybe 5% of what this guy says. The rest of it, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't comprehend it. Maybe you'll just give me some sort of insight on what he's saying that's actually relevant and why I should be listening a little bit closer. But you sat down with the guy for 5 hours. Congratulations, because I can hardly sit for an hour. There are so many people that you can.
What do you not agree with them? What part of what he says rubs you the wrong way?
The women, first thing is women. Like when he speaks about women, he'll make a good point, Patrick, but then he'll go left, completely left on it. So he reminds me of Jonathan Peterson, but then he goes left. Like he'll dumb it down for you. He'll dumb down what Jonathan Peterson says, right? But goes left with it.
Jordan Peterson, you're saying?
Jordan Peterson.
Right.
Apologies to Jordan.
Yeah.
Now and the chances of him coming on my show is next to none. But
It's
Jordan Peterson goes ahead. I watch, that's how I found Tate anyway. I watch you. I watch Peterson. I watch Les Brown. I watch a bunch of people that, provide like they're trying to inspire you. And here comes Tate talking about women belong in the kitchen. Help me out here. Maybe it's because I was raised by, women. 95% of my family is women. So maybe help me out here and understand, do we need it? Do we need Andrew Tate in this world?
Let me ask you, did you ever subscribe to Playboy magazine?
Yes.
Really?
Psych. I would say no. Actually, would figure out ways to find it. Never subscribed though.
So did you ever get your hands on Playboy magazine?
Yeah, absolutely, I did.
Why did you?
Well, I'm a man.
Oh, really?
Come on, Patrick.
But how old were you when you actually bought Playboy magazine? What was the oldest you ever were? Is there a Playboy magazine sitting right in front of you right now, or no? Is there one around you? Okay, so what was the oldest you were when you bought a Playboy magazine?
All truth on God, never bought Playboy magazine. I did have a friend whose father had a subscription to it, and literally would go over his house every single month to go and figure out who was the new girl on the cover.
So,
but I get where you're going with this. So I'm ready.
What did you think about your friend's father that subscribed to such a chauvinistic, misogynistic magazine called Playboy?
Come on, Patrick. But actually, for me, Playboy, they're showing off. For me, Playboy is showing off the beauty of women, right? Whereas maybe you could have said Hustlers. Hustlers, I would say is a little bit more ranchy than Playboy.
So who's the founder of Hustler or Playboy? Who's the founder?
Well, you have
Hugh Hefner.
Well, Hef, and then you have Larry Flint.
That's right. So what were the two known for? What were the two known for?
Are you comparing them to those Andrew Tate?
Oh, even worse. No. Wait a minute. They were worse. They were not at Tate's level. They were worse. I mean, Hugh was a 75-year-old man with 25-year-old girlfriends, and you never complain about him. Hold
on. But he didn't treat them hold on. There's he didn't go out on social media and say I'm dating a piece of meat and she belongs here and this one belongs there, and they know he wasn't doing that.
So you like people lying to you? That's what you're tasting.
No, I don't. Absolutely not. I don't like people lying to me.
You sure?
No, I don't.
So you would rather have Andrew Tate make up stories that's going to make you feel comfortable and lie to your face, but behind closed doors, live that life, versus having somebody that actually tells you what they believe in and you dislike it and you're upset at it? Because when the stories are coming out about Hugh Hefner, there's a lot of rough stories about Hugh Hefner behind closed doors on how he treated the girls. I don't see you going after Hugh Hefner. And by the way, here's the part. I don't have any issue. I don't know what Hugh Hefner did. I've never partied at the Playboy Mansion. I partied a lot, but I never went to the Playboy Mansion. But if that's his taste and single women, younger, wanted to date him and they said yes, and if it wasn't forced, that's their choice. But you have the choice to either agree or disagree. I think the biggest challenge a lot of people are having today is the following thing. Here's the biggest challenge a lot of overly sensitive people are having, and they don't even know it. Most people secretly want to be lied to. Most people secretly want to be lied to. Most people would rather have somebody bullshit them and fill them up with flattery and all the basic mumbo jumbo nonsense rather than telling them the truth, because it's safer. And here's a guy that's getting up there and telling you exactly what he believes in, but because you disagree with them, you don't like it. So you do prefer people lying to you rather than telling you what they really believe in.
I would disagree, because I would love people to confront me and tell me in my face and not stab me in the back, not hide shit from me. So I'm not, I'll have to disagree. My thing is that you have Tate and he gives off this. The things that I do like, the 5%, is he tells people to get off their ass, go work out, do something with your life. That I'm okay with.
Okay.
But then the next 5 seconds after that, he's saying like, yo, it's okay to go ahead and, like put a woman in the kitchen and all this shit. And at the end of the day, these young kids, because that's who's tuning into him, is you have young boys, 17, 18-year-olds tuning into him, listening to this message. They don't have Bugattis. They don't have Porsches. They don't have 14 other luxury sports cars outside of their crib. And he's telling them, go after that girl. And they go after a girl who they probably really like. And that girl rejects them. And now these people are like, hold on, Tate. These boys are saying, Tate told me to do this. Tate told me to do exactly this. And I got rejected. Now it becomes anger. Now it's like, yo, I'm not good enough. Now I believe it becomes now these 18, 19, 20-year-old boys become violent towards women. That's my problem.
God. Oh my
Not everybody's a Tate.
Oh my God. Okay, so
But you can't agree with me on that?
Man. Let me unpack a couple things for you. So you said 95% of people you were raised with were women. Did you have a father figure growing up or no?
Yes.
The father was in the picture.
Father was always in the picture. He died 2.5 years ago.
So sorry to hear. Was he tough on you?
No, he taught me. He wasn't tough on me. My mom was tough on me. My dad wasn't tough. I would say he raised me to be a respectful gentleman.
Okay, cool. And I respect that. So did my dad. Now, who did you spend more time with, your mom or your dad?
My dad.
You spend more time with your dad?
Correct. I spend more time with my dad. Listen, watching sports and everything. Hey, Dad, what's going on? Let's go watch this hockey game right now. Like football, stuff like that.
Yeah.
My mom said, go do this, go do laundry, go. Listen, I did everything for everybody who I spend more time with. Obviously, at the end of the day, to, kick back and shoot the shit with is with my dad.
Were you a guy that played organized sports, or did you ever go into the military? Absolutely. Or no? Okay.
I played organized sports.
Did you have tough coaches that kicked your ass, like really called you out and pushed you and challenged you?
100%. My coach told me, you are the best player on the team, but you're not a captain because you don't know what it means to have the C on your chest. All the way from, I was 11 years old. When I was told that, went home crying.
Fantastic. So you've had tough leadership around you. Okay. So is it fair to say that the only life you know is the life you've lived with the people that were chosen to play a role in your life, such as your mom, your dad, your siblings, your grandparents, and those were that's the only optics you've had in your life? Is it fair to say that?
It's fair to say that. Well, also had really good friends. I would say I had a good base.
Fantastic. So do you know what Tate's base was?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So
I don't know. I read a little bit about his dad.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know.
So here's what I've come to understand. When I decide to work with somebody in sales, or if I want to develop somebody into a leader within the company, I spend a lot of time learning about their upbringing, because I want to know what world they've been raised in, who's influenced them more and why, what type of leadership worked for them. Tate's life is a very different life than the one you've lived. Okay. Tate's life was not as stable as yours. Tate's life wasn't as, organized as yours. It wasn't maybe as, structured and predictable as yours. It just wasn't. So, and he wasn't raised in the same environment that you were raised in. He was raised in different places, constant moving. Nothing was stable. It was, we're moving here, then we're moving here, then we're moving here, then we're moving here. And here's the other part. I'm sure 95% of the shit the guy's gone through, none of us know about, that has impacted his life. We don't know what that thing is. But whatever a person says, when he says a man, a woman, the whole kitchen thing that you're referencing, okay, he's saying that because maybe that's important to him. He's saying that maybe because that's what his dad taught him. And he's saying that because he feels that's a concern for him. That
you agree with it?
That the family nucleus is being broken apart. By the way, he has the right to believe that. And you have the right to fully disagree and say, you have no clue what you're talking about. Women should be able to go out there and do what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I will give you some stats and some, stories for you to go out there and look at. I'm at my Vault conference. I have 2,000 people at this event, entrepreneurs from 200 plus industries, nearly 80 countries are at this event. And I'm asking everybody, what's a major life-changing decision you made last night? And it was a night of, we're going through a lot of different questions. A 37-year-old attractive Persian girl stands up with her sister sitting right next to her. When she stands up, everybody stops because she's, drop dead gorgeous. Just think about like a Kim Kardashian gorgeous. That's what she looks like, except she's Persian. So She gets up and she says, mine's very tough. I said, really? Tell us. She said, but it's very emotional. So you have to know it's been very hard for me to make this decision, but I have to say publicly because I want to own to it. I want to do something about it. I said, okay, great. She says, for the longest time, I've been the one that's saying men and women are equal, and I wanted to compete with them. So I've ran my hair salon, and I've hired people, and I've paid bills, and I've paid a lot of people's salaries, and I've been working 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, and I've been the best in the business for the last 15 years. But I realized something last night. I said, what's that? I want to be a wife and a mom. And that is officially more important to me than my career. And she's saying this, and the entire place is quiet. So I'm like, can you tell me why? She says, well, because originally I wanted to say that I'm equal and all this stuff. I'm like, how crazy is it that you're hearing more stories like this? There was a lady, and there's a lot of these stories right now that are going viral, a late 50s, early 60-year-old lady got up and she says, believing in the concept of feminism ruined my life. And I'm listening to her. How could you say something? She says, I was at the marches. I was there when I was when they're this. I was when I was at this event. I went everywhere. And I said, I'm going to be a career woman because I don't need a man. I can do it myself. I don't need anybody to take care of me. Okay, cool. And then she gets up and she says, now I'm 60 years old. I don't have any kids. I'm not married. It's very hard for me to ever have kids. I'll never have kids. And I will never have the kind of a relationship that some of my friends who didn't buy into the concept of feminism, where they try to compete with a man, now they have a life, they have something to look forward to, and I don't have anything. She says, I wish I would have never bought into this concept of feminism. So now, is Tate right? Is she right? Is the concept of feminism right? Are men and women equal? Should they get paid the same? Just this week, a YouTuber goes out, an 18-year-old kid goes out and asks women on campus of different universities, should college women's basketball players get paid the same as NBA players? Okay, so the first girl says, absolutely. She goes to the second girl. Should WNBA players get paid the same as NBA players? Yes. Should they get, he does this with 20 different girls, but here's a kicker. You know what the follow-up question was? Here's a follow-up question. The follow-up question the kid asked was, who's your favorite WNBA player? Every girl he asked the question said the following. Oh, I don't know. I don't follow it. Oh, I don't know. I don't follow it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't follow it. So why should they get paid the same? They don't get the same eyeballs. Now, Serena Williams, who plays tennis, makes a lot of money because she gets eyeballs. She gets a lot of eyeballs. WNBA doesn't get eyeballs. So, when you look at some of this stuff to say men and women are equal and all this others, it doesn't apply to every single place. So I can see how Tate's argument may upset people. And by the way, the last thing I'll say this, and I'll turn it over to you, is when we sat down for the 5-hour interview, I said to him, I said, I think his gift is knowing how to get under the skin of people like you. That's part
100%.
of it. Yeah.
100%.
He's a showman. You have to know that he's a showman. And the gift of a showman is, think about what he does. Think about what Conor McGregor does. Think about what Trump does. Think about what Jake Paul does. Think about I can give you 20 names like this, and they all have something in common. They're all incredible at trolling people, but that equals eyeballs. So, does he really mean everything that he says, like 100%? I don't know. He can answer that question. I'm convinced he's one of the best showmen in the world today, and he's proven it the last 12 months. which is why the algorithms are favoring them, because the market wants to see and hear more of what he has to say.
Well, because the market's not used to this. 20 years ago, you can speak this way and it just like, okay, it's just regular talk. I grew up in Brooklyn, by the way. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. We heard these kind of conversations 20 years ago. Again, did I agree with them? That's a different story. I didn't agree with the conversations. Maybe it's just because of my upbringing. You make a valid point where I don't know Tate's upbringing, but I know that he has a huge platform and he can use this platform to go ahead and not get these kids all amped up. And I'm talking about these young boys that have been, listen, pandemic has everybody locked up. Now they're free. And now they're watching is Tate because he's all over the place. He's hacked the algorithm. He is everywhere. Like if I try to look you up, I see one video of you, but the next reels are him. Everything's him. It's all about him, all about his Bugatti, all about whatever else he's fucking talking about. Again, I don't hate the guy. I wish he would, like, he says good stuff and then he goes left with it. That's really my only problem with him.
That's
like
not your
that's
business,
it. Like you named Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is just a showman though. Like he's a real showman. He's not really talking shit about anybody except his opponents. It's like he's like
David, then here's the part though. Then do you think your argument is a better argument than Tate's?
I would say mine is a less violent argument.
Less what?
Less violence is involved in my argument versus
you think
his.
He's telling men to go beat women up?
No, I'm not saying he is, but kids who have never actually experienced walking next to a girl and asking her out in this generation can turn violent. That's what I believe. It's that part. I believe Andrew can go get any girl he wants because of the amount of money he has, the cars, the house, the lifestyle. Yeah. Like girls will drop for him. It doesn't matter how he looks. Girls will drop for him.
Have you seen what he looked like at 18 years old? Have you seen his pictures?
But we're talking about now though, right?
No, but hear me out. No, hear me out though. Have you seen what he looked like at 18 years old? If you look at what he looked like at 18 years old, you wouldn't say that's a guy that gets a lot of girls. You'd say that.
But now, but we're in the now though. Like Patrick.
So the difference between you and I is I believe he also believes in this, the fact that you can decide to change your life. So he was sick and tired of probably being rejected by girls and not, dating the girl that he wanted to be. And like most men, so you have to know that the direction you just went when you're saying younger men and 18 years old and all this other stuff, everybody I know that either became a bit of a player or went through a phase of a run. And what I mean by a run is that there's zero commitment, like zero commitment. It's just a run, okay, that you're going through. And sometimes it lasts for year, 2 years. Sometimes it lasts for 3-5 years. Sometimes it lasts for 10 years. For some, it's still going and it's a long run. Why though? Why does that happen? Because one of the most painful things a boy can experience when they're younger, I hope it happens to boys younger, not older, is when a girl breaks your heart. I mean, it's tragic when it happens to a boy. It happens to girls and it happens to a boy, but specifically for boys, it's a tragic event. While she leaves you for another man, it's devastating when it happens to a boy. Okay. So when that happens, a guy typically steps back, and a couple ways is this is handled. One is, I suck, I'm not attractive. They kind of go the timid mode, and they just kind of are like even so uncomfortable about talking to girls, and they walk on eggshells. Or they say, let me tell you something. You have no clue what you just lost. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to make money. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be this. And for the rest of your life, you're going to have to watch me on videos, on articles saying, that could have been my husband. That could have been my boyfriend. FYI, a lot of men do that because somebody broke their heart. Just like a lot of fighters in UFC become great fighters because somebody bullied the hell out of them. And they said, I'm going to whoop your ass one day because you will not be able to fight me. There's a video on YouTube.
Like George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre became an MMA fighter.
There's another guy I was showing the video on George St. Pierre's interview. I don't know if you remember that, where I showed the video about this guy, the bully who bullied this guy when he was a kid. He shows up to the gym. He says, hey, you remember me? You bullied me. Let's box. And they get in the ring. And this other kid that was being bullied just knocks the hell out of him, right? Can't even hang with him, right?
Yeah.
This was a painful, embarrassing moment that a kid got knocked out in front of his friends and everybody laughed at him and he had a nickname and that nickname stuck for 4 or 5 years. And this kid wants to change his reputation. Some of the best thing that happens is that, but let me give you the last angle and then I'll turn it over to you. When people say things like the language Tate uses is concerning and the stuff that he says and that women belong in the kitchen. And by the way, you know, I don't need to do anything to defend this guy's arguments. He can defend himself and he's done a great job defending himself. And people have the freedom to say, I disagree or agree. I grew up following Tupac. I'm a Tupac guy. I got a painting in my house with Tupac in the painting. It's called Dead Mentors. Tupac is standing to my right in the painting. I'm the only one that's alive, but he's to my right because Tupac had a big impact on my life. Have you ever listened to the song Hit 'Em Up?
Of course.
So you know how it starts? You know what he talks about?
I can rhyme the whole song out.
Okay. Have you ever listened to Bone Thugs and Harmony, Mo Murder? Have you ever listened to Bone Thugs and Harmony where the song starts off with I think it's one of the pastors or reverends that gets up and says, we're not against rap. We're not against rappers, but we are against those thugs. And then it's the thuggish road and starts off with that, right? Okay. So gangster rap. These video games of guys getting out, hey, throwing the bitch, hey, get in here, hey, I mean, if you listen to some of the languages of what we have in rap, you know, you would sit there and say, this is not how rap got started. Movies, video games. You know, today, Little Nas X is performing a sexual whatever he was doing with the devil, and they're showing it on regular television. You're worried about Tate? You're worried about what Tate has to say? You know,
it's not just Tate. It's not just Tate. Like, we can agree on that. It's not just Tate.
I come from a place of make a decision for yourself. I think today, if people have ever wanted to make money because they want the nice cars and the nice toys, but if you got kids today, I highly recommend parents go make the money, not for the massive house and the cars and all that stuff. Make the money to put your kids in a private school that matches the values you want to raise your kids in. Go make that money because public school is screwed up today in America. I don't trust it. I don't recommend people to go that route. But, you know, Tate makes his argument. You get a chance to come back and say disagree. And if you have a good rebuttal, then the audience says, I agree with David. Then he says what he says. And then the market goes back and forth. And the market says, like, look at what Jake Paul did to Dana White. You don't pay your fighters enough. You don't pay your fighters enough. And then some people agree with Dana White. But some people agree with Jake Paul. Jake Paul made a good argument. Dana White made a good argument. Go build it if you think it's so easy. Someone's going to make a decision. So you have the right to say, I disagree with him. He's got the right to give his argument. I just think silencing him shows a sign of weakness, which that's what they shouldn't have done.
Well, that we can agree with. That I agree with 100%. It doesn't allow me to engage with Andrew Tate. Like, even if I want to have a debate with Andrew Tate, I can't do it on social media because they took away his platforms. Now, if we are just one-sided in our debates, then it's just a fucking echo chamber and nobody wins and nobody gets educated on anything. And you can't even program your mind to the current society that we currently live in. So I agree with that. Like, I don't want to see him deplatform. I never wanted that. I can dislike anybody or I always say I can dislike their message, but that doesn't mean that I want to see them banned. That is the worst thing that we can ever do to anybody is take away their platform. Because like, with Trump, right? I was going to lead into Trump and I wanted to ask you a question about him, like taking away his platforms. Well, there's 73 million people voted for this guy and you took away his platform. Like, what is that? What did you do there? All you did was you're going to make this person more interesting. Like Logan Paul said that Andrew Tate was going to disappear by 2023 because he wouldn't be relevant anymore. Well, now he is. By deplatforming him, now he will continue to be relevant because people are going to seek him out. And to that, I want to ask you about Trump. And Trump, I wanted to ask you, do you believe, number one, that Trump is a good businessman? And two, do you think he did a hell of a job for us in the 4 years that he was in office?
I think he's a good businessman. I mean, people have a different definition for a businessman. If somebody had a bankruptcy, they're like, oh, that guy's a bad businessman. If somebody had 2 or 3, oh, that person's a bad businessman. I want to say the average billionaire has had 3 bankruptcies or 2 bankruptcies. The number is something like that. So to become a billionaire, you have to know, we have 720 or 730 billionaires today. We're lower now since the market dropped. Let's say we have 700 billionaires in America today. Out of 700 billionaires that we have in America today, David, how many people you think were this close of being a billionaire and they took the one risk that was about to happen, but maybe they did it at a wrong time where the market tanked, COVID happened, something happened that hurt them? How many? If we got 700 billionaires, can we agree that maybe we got 70,000 people that were on their way to becoming a billionaire, but something happened and okay, perfect. So, man, it's very hard to be a billionaire, very hard. So he did that. Number 2, it's very hard to compete in New York, Manhattan. He did 100%. That. It's very hard to have a TV show that renews for 2 seasons, let alone 3, let alone 4, let alone 15 years. He did that. It's very hard to be a man who's always surrounded with beautiful women, and he did that. It's very hard for somebody to be interviewed on the biggest platforms in the world. Oprah Winfrey, everybody wanted this guy until he ran for office. He did that.
Exactly.
It's very hard for a guy to run a #1 best-selling book that stayed there for, I don't know, 10, 20 years. He did that.
The Art of the Deal.
The Art of the Deal. He did that. It's very hard to raise good kids nowadays. Out of his 5 kids, 4 of them seem like they have 3 of them seem like they have their stuff together. And one of them is more towards his second wife. And the third and last one, we don't know anything about. Barron. The only thing we know is going to be 7 feet tall, but we don't know what he's going to do. He did that, right? It's very hard to get Israel and Palestine. What? To agree 25 years? He did that. It's very hard to get ISIS to no longer appear, after every day we're talking about ISIS. He did that. So he did a lot of those things. Now, Trump has one massive flaw, in my opinion. And his one flaw is the following. Say you go into a bar, and when you go into a bar that's a packed bar, there's 1,000 people there. Let's just say it's the happening spot in town, no matter what town you're in. Before you make it to the bar, people are going to bump into you. 10, 20, 30 people are going to bump into you. Not intentionally, accidentally. They're going to bump into you. Accidentally, someone's going to have their hands touch your butt or touch you and all this stuff. The average person doesn't want to fight every one of them. The average person will only fight the one that intentionally touches their girl. They'll fight that guy, okay?
For sure.
Wherein Trump thinks everybody wants to fight him, and they don't. That's Trump's issue. Trump wants to fight everybody at the bar. Trump wants to fight everybody on Twitter that said one thing about him. Trump wants to go after every announcer, every, late night show host. He wants to go after everybody. You don't need to. That's their job. If he would have just fought the 1% of the 1% at your level, he would have probably not had the 90% of the problems that he has today. But, and again, the other part is if he watches something like this, he'll say, how long I've been myself? 74, 75 years. You think I'm going to take advice from you on how to live my life? Look where I'm at. And I don't blame him either that he doesn't want to take everyone's counsel. But unfortunately, sometimes we could be the most successful person on the planet and we can still have blind spots. It's very, very hard to be one of the best in the world at what you do and be willing to take feedback from someone else not at your level that's giving you counsel from a good place for you to say, that could actually be my blind spot. Let me receive it. I don't think he's capable of doing that.
He's not. I wish somebody would have thrown away his phone and he would have just focused on doing he did a lot of good things while he was in office. He doesn't get credit for it. And that's because, this is not a career politician who went in and literally, I would say good chaos in terms of coming in there and getting things done instead of talking about them and letting them sit there for the next 4 years, then running and saying, I'm going to do it. And then again, having things just sit on the table and nothing getting done. He's prison reform, all that stuff. People don't give him enough credit. If he does run, uh I'll say it's like almost controversial for me to say who I want to vote for, but I'd vote for him. So like, there it is. It
See,
can
see,
care
I have
less
a
if
challenge
it.
with that, though. I have a challenge with you saying that. If you have the guts to say something like that publicly, yet you have a hard time with Tate, you know, there you have to know that there's a lot of similarities between those two personalities. Maybe more than you know, where the difference would be maybe Trump doesn't say everything that's on his mind, where Tate does. But those two have a lot of things in common, a lot.
I just, again, I don't dislike, I don't hate Tate. Hate is a strong word. So I don't hate Tate. I wish that being that he already has established this platform, I think he could do so much better. That's really it. But who am I? At the end of the day, who am I? This is a dude who's hacked the social media algorithm, like algo system completely. Who am I to tell him what to go ahead and say? He is, you made a point, a valid one. He's a showman. He is a showman. I don't know if he's a showman in the likes of Conor McGregor. You could put him there but like I don't think he's there because Conor doesn't like say outrageous things outside the box. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about like he'll get into the minds of UFC fighters, whoever his opponent is. He will talk trash, but other than that, he knows what he's doing. It's business. It's clearly he stated it on multiple occasions. He even told Khabib during the match, he's like, "Yo, this is just business. It's just business." Khabib obviously didn't take it that way and smashed him up, but like it's business. So like again, God bless Tate, man. God bless Tate. I don't hate him. I just dislike the message. That's it. Can you put Trump and him together? You could. They're both banned off of platforms. They both got everything taken away from them. So you could put them in the same category. So I don't disagree with that. I just want to ask you about Iran, being that you are from Iran or you were born in Iran. What do you think? I saw your clip, by the way, the 2-minute clip that you put out on Twitter. Good stuff, great stuff. Well, what do you, for those that haven't watched it, I would encourage them to watch it. What do you think about everything that's happening now? Obviously, a woman was killed because she didn't properly have her my God, I was hijab on correctly. Should the government have or countries have control over the way women look? I mean, what is happening?
I'll tell you this. I think common sense prevails, and eventually bad arguments get exposed and bad ideas get exposed. It's just that simple. This concept of hijab in Iran has been there for a minute. When the Shah was there, he got rid of it. When Khomeini came back in, he put it back on, I think March 8th of 1979, when Khomeini brought the hijab, because to him, a woman not having a hijab on, to him, means they're naked. And then after he passed away, it got a little bit looser in Iran. Then when Raisi got elected last year, some say he didn't get elected. It was the lowest turnout in an election since 1979 in Iran. Almost everybody will say Raisi never got elected. Raisi was involved in a massacre in 1988, which he was a part of it in what he did. So he's not really trusted the most. And he comes out this year, August 15th, which is about 5 weeks ago. And he says, moving forward, if you're not wearing your hijab, we're putting surveillance cameras everywhere. You're going to be detained. You're going to be fined. You're going to be arrested. And we're going to look at your job to see if you're going to be wearing your hijab or not. And so the mandates went higher. Women got sick of it, saying, we're not doing it. They started cutting their hair, dropping it, burning the hijab. And then they killed this 22-year-old innocent girl. And then that created the tipping point. And now today there's protesting going on worldwide for the support of Iran. And Iran right now needs the right leader to rise up that can speak and tell the story and unite everybody and get them to fulfill the mission of getting democracy and freedom back in Iran. They need arms and they need internet today. But, this has happened a few times. Unfortunately, every time this happens, people die. And the Hezbollah and the government scares the crap out of the people. And eventually it gets to a point where they realize there's really not much we can do about it. And they back down. So the government knows how to shut these guys down very quickly. The difference is this time around, for whatever reason, women are not backing down. They're standing up and they're taking it. They're fighting back. I think a cop died and 3 Hezbollah pastors have died, and more is going through, which is, again, people are just fed up. They're sick of it. So, the world is able to watch and say, look, these ideas you got in Iran, they're terrible ideas. What are you doing to women? What are you talking about? Like, I'll share one of them for you, just for you to think about, your audience to be thinking about. And tell me if you're okay with this. If the audience is listening to this, tell me if this is common sense. So young girls are forced into arranged marriages with men they barely know. Yeah. Girls as young as 9 years old are forced into these marriages. Let me say that one more time. Girls as young as 9 years old in Iran are forced into these marriages that we're talking about. At the age seven, let me read this to you. At the age 7, girls are forced to wear headscarves to attend elementary school. They can't go to school if they don't comply. According to the Islamic law, if you kill someone, you have to pay some sort of atonement, meaning blood money, to the family of the victim. Now watch this. The money you have to pay for killing a woman is half the money you have to pay for killing a man. Okay? That's in Iran. Women don't have the rights to divorce their husbands. They're basically stuck in their marriages for as long as their husbands want. Men have the right to divorce their wives whenever they want. Being gay is illegal. The punishment for being gay in Iran, ready? Death penalty. Having a dog is illegal. You can't take your dog out for a walk. The police can literally take away your dog and kill it if they want to. They throw a stupid puberty ceremony when girls turn 9. They brainwash girls into, this is the day you turn into a woman, meaning you can get married. At age 9, they make them wear chador on that day and force us to say Islamic prayers. An Iranian man is allowed to have 4 wives at the same time. Iranian women be stoned, thrown stones until death if they are proven to have committed infidelity. Partying is illegal, dancing is illegal, singing is illegal for women. Women are not allowed to play musical instruments in public. Satellite TV is illegal. You can't go to the beach and sunbathe and swim with your entire family because it's illegal. I can go on and on and on and on. Wow. These are bad ideas. And bad ideas don't make it. So the good thing about social media is I just read these ideas to the average person that's watching right now. They're going to be saying, that can't be true. Well, then go do your own research. And then they do their own research. They're like, wow, that was actually true. Those are terrible ideas. And then eventually more people talk about it. Then those ideas get killed because we're making a lot of progress worldwide. So it's unfortunate what's going on, but I salute the courageous people that are going out there pushing the envelope, and eventually freedom is coming their way.
I hope so. And I'm with you, man. I actually hope they overturn things over there. And it looks like it's being led by obviously the younger generation. And it's absolutely great to see that. So like, I do hope that country stabilizes with a real leader to go ahead and take them, to the right place into the future. Elon Musk says college degrees are pretty much worthless. He would hire somebody who studied a profession via YouTube and has real life experience in the field over someone who went to college and just memorized the shit to pass the class with a passing grade. You're an entrepreneur. You've been a successful businessman. What's your take on college and getting a degree? Because this will lead me into another question that I have for you. And let's exclude medical professionals and rocket scientists, because we know that you need to go to college for that shit. That's understandable. But excluding that, is college really that important right now?
So the question becomes, people ask me, so Spab, all this stuff you say about school, are you going to ask your kids to go to school? Well, let's process that. All right. So number one, like you said, STEM, law, stuff like that. You got to go to college. You need to go to it. Phenomenal. Fantastic. Everything else, pretty much is being challenged today because, again, bad ideas get exposed. Colleges were originally started as a place to go get education, not as a profit place to go to, where today, what most people don't realize is, as much as people talk shit about McDonald's, these are rich, greedy people. Do you know how much McDonald's has in their bank account in cash savings? Less than $3 billion.
It's crazy.
Starbucks, less than $3 billion. Do you know how much Harvard has in their cash savings endowment? $60 billion.
And they asked for $9 million in PPP loans.
$60 billion is what Harvard has in endowments. That's almost the same as Facebook has, a $500 billion company. Oh, but the greedy ones are Facebook. It's McDonald's or Starbucks. I'm sorry. You're the greedy ones. You have the money. You're not even paying taxes for it. And at the same time, during COVID, while your students weren't even staying on campus, you still had the parents pay the full premium amount for your degree, no discount, while nobody was living on your campus. Yeah, I think the real greedy ones are Harvard, and they got exposed. Yeah. And what happened during COVID, when people started noticing what Harvard was doing, what other places like that were doing, they said, listen, man, we're starting to see your real true colors. You care more about money than businesses do, but you've been spinning it very good. So you want me to send my kids to your school to go there so you can trash capitalism and then get them into your way of thinking, and you still want me to pay you 60 grand a year? I'm sorry, man, I'm questioning that. I don't know if I want to do that. So now, will I do that with my kids? My kids, if they play sports and say they get a full ride scholarship and they're good athletes and they can go to a sport to play, we're going to have that conversation. And if that's their dream, go for it. Yeah. If the kids, get accepted to great school to want to pursue whatever their careers are, where they can network with other kids, we will have that conversation. And if they want daddy's feedback, of course, if they're above 18, they get to make the decision themselves. But I'll be able to sit down and give them feedback on what to do. And from now, we're shaping their mindset on what's the right route to go through to go to school and build those relationships and those contacts. We'll have those types of conversations. But aside from that, when I'm hiring, I just hired 2 new people today that we're sitting down with. I couldn't tell you what college degree they got. All I know is one of the guys worked at HBO for 14 years and he did the finances for them. I know he worked at HBO, but I don't know what college they went to. The other guy that I just hired was a police officer for 15 years. He's had a radio show for 20 years and he was a realtor, but ask me what college he went to. I don't have a clue, but I can tell you he was a cop for 15 years. I can tell you he had a radio show for 20 years. I can tell you what nationality he is. I can tell you those types of things, but I can't tell you the college. And I'm an employer who hires a few hundred people every year. Okay. And I'm going through this regularly. So times have changed. The days of, and by the way, if I see a degree that somebody has a degree from a certain school, if I see a certain school, I kind of sit there and I'm like, ooh, this guy went to that school. So how do you feel about capitalism? What do you think about business? And what do you think about competition? What do you think about all this stuff? And sometimes their answer will reveal a lot about how the education impacted them. But again, like I said earlier about the ideas in Iran, bad ideas that don't innovate and improve eventually get exposed. In 1970, from 1970 till today, CPI, inflation, is up roughly 220% from 1970 till today. But cost of a college degree average in America is up 1,200%. Let me say this one more time. Inflation is 200%. College is 1,200%. Has a 4-year degree increased the value of a 4-year degree 1,200% in the last 50 years? Data says otherwise. So no, people are starting to question it. And I think education is about to go through a major disruption if they haven't already started going through it.
And you can see, like, for me personally, I agree with you on that. And second, I don't feel like paying off these student loans for anybody, because the taxpayer now in the United States of America will have to go ahead and pay for all the student forgiveness. Like, if you chose and made the commitment to go to college, that's on you. Unless there's somewhere in the bill that, hey, the people that went to college and paid off their bills 5 years, 10 years ago also get some sort of refund, I'll be cool with that. To my knowledge, nobody's getting that. Yeah. So I know I don't understand this culture that we live in where there is no incentive. Like, don't worry, we're just going to go ahead and turn on the printer. We're going to print out some more money, and then we're going to pay for your college that half of these people probably didn't finish for whatever reasons. And I'm supposed to pay it, you're supposed to pay it. The United States citizen who pays their taxes and paid off their loans have to pay this? So unfair. Talk about dictatorship. That is unfair. That is super unfair. I was going to give you that question, but I'm passionate about that. Like that to me is like, I don't understand. Why am I paying for anybody? It's enough that we printed. It's enough that the feds went ahead and continued to run the printer. And now we're in this point where inflation levels are at all-time highs or never seen for the last, 30, 40 years. And now the only way to stop it is to raise rates. And make sure that we can go and stop people from spending, and even spending on food, as some people came out on news networks and stated, in order to go ahead and get inflation down back to normal levels. Craziness that's going on in the world. But I wanted to lead you into this then with inflation, because you mentioned it. What do you think about Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is one of my areas. What do you think about Bitcoin? Number one, do you personally own any? And do you think it has the ability to become the global currency of the world one day?
So Bitcoin, I do own a little bit of Bitcoin and a little bit of Ethereum. Probably less than 1% of my portfolio is Bitcoin and Ethereum. But I will tell you about what I think, and I know this is going to sound strange when I say this, and I know this the last topic we're addressing, but I will say this about Bitcoin and Ethereum is Putin made some major claims recently when he made some major threats that if the West decides to get involved, we will go as far as using, nuclear as an option. He's not leaving it out. It's out there. Okay. So let's just play the devil's advocate. Let's play it. Say shit hits the fan. Okay. Say the West and NATO and Europe pushes Putin so far that he says, okay, you forced me to do this. Yeah. I have to do it because you have publicly humiliated me. I just activated 300,000 citizens of my country who were former soldiers to go serve. I've lost a ton of people that have left Russia. People who are citizens of Russia have left to other countries. They have left because they're afraid of living in Russia right now. And now he's sitting there embarrassed in front of all his people. And say Putin all of a sudden says, you know what? Let's go. And he nukes Ukraine. Okay. Let's try to sequence this out. If he nukes Ukraine, what happens next? NATO has to do something. US has to get involved because US already gave 35 billion, 40 billion, 15 billion, say nearly $60 billion. Iran's going to get involved to protect. China's going to potentially get involved to protect Russia.
Yeah.
What happens all of a sudden? Dow Jones could go from 29.35 right now to 14, 15, splits in half. And we will really see the character of cryptocurrency. I think a massive crisis, not like COVID, by the way, a massive crisis like that needs to happen. You saw pound drop dramatically yesterday, okay? Dollar went up. If something like that happens, and next thing you know, people say, man, I need a Bitcoin. I need a Bitcoin. Do you have a Bitcoin? Can you pay with a Bitcoin? And all of a sudden, everybody goes to something like that because, say, the banking system's taking a hit, say the market's taking a hit. I think the world's going to sit there and say, you know what? I think, babe, we need some Bitcoin. We've never been believers in Bitcoin. I think we need some Bitcoin. But I think that the character of the currency and the technology will be challenged during a massive black swan. And I don't know. But I can tell you right now, the government does not want Bitcoin. You saw what Jamie Dimon said about Bitcoin. You saw what Charlie Munger said about Bitcoin. You saw what Warren Buffett said about Bitcoin. Jamie Dimon's got a lot of credibility. Warren Buffett's got a lot of credibility. They're not for Bitcoin. They are not for any of it. So, Michael Saylor took a big hit with the whole, everything, the amount of Bitcoins that he bought. There's a lot of people that are taking massive hits. NFT. A lot of people that were all NFT have been very quiet. A lot of people lost a lot of money in NFTs, because, where is the utility? You promise utility. The utility has no value today. I don't know. So 90% of the NFTs are going to disappear. And then the other 10%, maybe they're going to last for a few years and then they're going to disappear. It's going to come down to 1% of NFTs. And on the crypto side, I think crypto needs a real good fight to win for the world to say you have a legitimate contender to go to the real heavyweight, which is going up against fiat.
So you wouldn't buy an NFT for $250,000. I'm talking about like a Bored Ape. You wouldn't buy one for $250,000.
No.
because the utility there for me personally is you can network with people. Well, not in your case, you get a lot of people to sit down with you that, you know, other people could look at and say, oh, I wish I had a chance to go ahead and meet them. And the Bored Ape kind of thing, the parties that are available to you, you can network with these type of people and at least have a 5-minute conversation with them to explore, you know, obviously business.
I will tell you, if my MO was crypto, absolutely I'm buying a board. Of course, I have to. It's part of my, you know, it's the resume. What do you own? 247. You know, I own this and I own that and I have this because it's part of the, oh, wow, he's on the inside. So I get that. You know, like for me, card collection. I own somewhere around $10 million of collectible cards. I know cards. I understand cards. I understand art. Art's a massive, massive business worldwide, massive. You know, right now it's a $1.7 trillion of art around the world, according to Deloitte. And Deloitte is saying the valuation of art in the next 4 years by 2026 is going to go from 1.7 trillion to 2.6 trillion. To 2.6 trillion. There's a building in Geneva called Geneva Freeport that holds $100 billion of art, 1.2 million pieces of art that the art buyer never saw. They just put it there because it's a tax haven. I think there's an argument for some art. There's an argument for collectible cards. There's an argument for one-of-ones, but NFT to me is
I think the NFT, I think what happens, Patrick, is that people get confused with NFTs because of the art part, but haven't really dived deep into the technology itself. And that's why you have brands like Nike, Adidas. You got all these corporations that are jumping into Web3 to align themselves with the top tier, not only the top tier projects in the game, but trying to go ahead and establish their own NFTs in Web3 so they can go ahead and generate and continue to be a part of the crowd. My last thing to you before, because I know you're a busy ass guy, my last thing to you is the Kobe interview. That's how I got to know you, the Kobe interview. Number one, how special was that? And number two, there's one thing that he said to you that you took away with and you still think about till this day. What was that?
I mean, first of all, you know, Kobe, very few Kobe's in the world. He's a one-on-one guy. There's not a one of one. But the interview was epic. Right before that, we spent an hour and a half together. He was talking to my wife. He spent 15 minutes talking to my 8-year-old son, 9-year-old son. Just talking to him, regular conversation with him. And we're about to hit the stage. 6,000 people are waiting there. It's the same event where I had him and I had President Bush at the event as well. Very controversial event. Articles being written about, people hating on the event. And then right before the event, he says, you get nervous before these things? I'm like, no, I don't get nervous. I've done this too many times. He goes, yeah, me neither, man. I've done it too much. I said, dude, you played in front of, what are you talking about? You played in front of 20,000 people. And then we hit the stage. And there's a part in the interview that we had to cut because people got a lot of excited and they started running towards the stage. And I had to stop everybody and I had to get out and tell everybody to get back and, you know, making sure he felt comfortable and safe because that was part of our job that we had. And then people sat down and when we did the interview, I had no clue it was going to get a few 100 million views and picked up by ESPN, NBC, CBS, ABC in his retirement ceremony, not his retirement ceremony, but his, what do you call it? Funeral. When they did it at the Staples Center, they had they had a part of the video for Staples Center was shown all over the world. I mean, it's just, you know, an emotional way that he and I are connected for a long time. We were starting to talk possibilities, business, you know, you following my content. I was following his stuff and, but heartbreaking. The day he died, we were at Seasons 52 in Dallas. And my son, I'm looking at the phone, CNN says, Kobe Bryant just got into LA. I'm like, this is an ugly joke to play. Yeah. Then all of a sudden my phone is blowing up. Like hundreds of men. I'm like, what are people doing? Then I show Jen. Jen's like, babe, Kobe just died. And we're looking at the news. And then Dylan sees the phone says, Kobe just died. Dylan's like, my friend Kobe just died? Daddy, that's my friend. He just died. And I'm looking at Dylan, I'm like, man, look at the impression he made on this kid that he calls Kobe his friend. I don't know, man. You know, my kind of a guy, when I told the interview, when I think of Kobe, I think about my dad, because my dad and I watched a lot of games together with him. Very, very strange day when we got that news, but just glad he and I were able to share that, moment together with the interview, and the world gets a chance to see a good hour of interview back and forth on what his mindset was, which is priceless. But very unique moment in my career, something I will cherish for the rest of my life.
And next time I see Shaq, by the way, I agreed with you. Shaq put I love Kobe, but Shaq put Kobe in front of MJ. I was like, what? Really, Shaq? Really? I got to talk to Shaq about this. Really?
What's that all
I
about?
get it. He played with him, but
Yeah,
MJ's, I don't know. Like, Kobe, if nobody ever got to see MJ, Kobe was it. And that mindset and that effort and that determination, like that alone should inspire people.
no question. I agree.
And on that note, Patrick, but David, I do appreciate you coming on to this show, Gokhshtein Unfiltered. We will play it on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is there anything else you want to tell my community about yourself, about your value?
I will say something to your community, something your community may like, for those that like Tate. So an app was launched 2 weeks ago called Minect. And let me tell you what Minect is. Okay. Minect is an app where, for the longest time, I would get lawyers and I'd have a 7-minute call and they would charge me for 30 minutes. I said, I'd love to know what I can pay by the minute. So we launched the app Minect, which you have a minute to connect. You Minect on Minect app, and you can buy a FaceTime with Tate, with myself, with Kiyosaki, with Kevin Connolly, with Chaz Palminteri, with lawyers, with investment bankers, with publishers, and have a conversation with them. Everybody charges a different price by the minute. You can either ask them a question and they will respond back because they're getting paid by the minute, or you can do a FaceTime with them. And you can download the app Minect on Android or on iOS, Minnect.
One sponsorship for me. By the way, I don't hate Tate. Patrick, I don't hate him.
Listen, man, secretly, I think you're in love with the guy. You just don't want to admit to it.
Listen, I've admitted to a lot of things, but I do appreciate you, and I hope you come on to the podcast where I hope I can get you out here in studio so we can go ahead and shoot one-on-one, and maybe, just maybe, we can go dive more into Tate and how he was able to completely rule social media algorithms. But on that note, thank you again. Thank you so much. I know you took time out of your day to come on here, and I do really appreciate it. And we'll talk about the sponsorships later. And on that note, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.